Hi again, everyone. Vic Rauter with rally expert Paul Chater, and we're used to seeing rally cars on dirt roads, but this one starts on a racetrack.
Race City in Calgary probably has Canada's best stock car oval, plus a drag strip and a road course. Art McKenzie, the owner, is a rally man at heart, though. When the Calgary Sports Car Club needs an in-town special stage, he's right there. And Johnny Rutherford used to say, if it's not grass or wall, it's racetrack.
Paul, after 7 laps at Race City, it's 150K out to the mountains, where now we're going to get serious. It's the second stage. It's a special stage. Frank and Dan Sprongel on the start line. Their car is an Audi Quattro S2, 375 horsepower, Paul, turbocharged, four-wheel drive.
And they are two-time North American champs, Vic. They're using Yokohama rally tires this season. He won the Bighorn last weekend and gave the tires credit for performance in the muddy conditions. This year's rally is based in the Porcupine Hills, southwest of Calgary, between Okotoks and Pincher Creek, Alberta. This stage, 18.86 kilometers long.
Now, the weather is good for rallying. They had rain earlier leading up to it, and in fact, as you may see some puddles, it's not quite wet, it's not quite dry, but maybe best of all, it keeps the dust down.
It keeps the dust down, and a good hard-packed surface. These are perfect rally roads.
Without a doubt, one of the best rally drivers, not in our country, but in North America. And then this is where I'd like to see him take on the world, because I think he would do well there too.
I think most of us would like to see how North American drivers in particular can do in the World Rally Championship. But like Formula One, the World Rally Championship is mainly European-based, and it's tough for a North American to crack it.
The number 2 of Carl Merrill and Lance Smith. They won the Race City stage by 7 seconds. And he's leading, of course, the North American Rally Cup Championship.
And he was the champion in 1996. Carl is from Maine. He owns a Norseman resort in Ogunquit. And Lance's co-driver runs a rally prep shop called Vermont Sports Cars, kind of like having a riding mechanic along.
Now, we've seen this Ford Escort Cosworth for several years now, but this is the latest World Rally version.
And it's a weapon, Vic. Cosworth engine, 7-speed, non-synchro gearbox, and 450 horsepower. North American rules have no engine limits, unlike the World Rally Championship, where they're supposed to be limited to 300 horsepower. And Merrill is running on Michelin rally tires in this event.
Tom McGeer, wife Trish, their number 3, Subaru Impreza WRX, 300 horsepower, 4-wheel drive, turbo 5-speed. He's a pilot, 747s. She's a marketing executive with TNT Enterprise.
And they're running on Pirelli tires. Like Merrill, the tires are unidirectional and asymmetrical, different tires for left and right side.
They failed to finish at the Bighorn Rally. Oh, and a mistake here, Paul. You don't see that very often. They come up to the T. Trish called for the left, and they were supposed to go now to the right.
Vic, that's a very rare error for a 3-time champ. Now, as you know, Trish is sitting there with a route book in her lap. There are pictograms of which way the road goes because they've never seen these roads before. They're the first time at full speed, and Tom is relying on Trish to read the directions out to him. The roads, of course, are closed, but they've never seen them before.
Ontario's Barry and Sandra Latreille in their number 4 Eagle Talent on Michelin tires.
Here are Tim Bendel and Nicole Molnar. Tim is 2-time Canadian national champion. He prefers 2-wheel drive cars like this 72 Datsun 510.
Number 6, Pelle Eriksson, John Belfleur in a Volvo. Eriksson had an older Volvo, trying to sort out now a brand new 940 Prepton Suite, but it's right out of the box here.
Keith Townsend from Toronto, Ross Wood from Milton, Ontario, 4-wheel drive Toyota Corolla.
The number 11 of Stephen Barnes and Thomas Karzinski from Calgary, only in their second year of rally competition. Paul, after a conservative run at Race City where he finished 3rd, Frank Sprongel, though, has set the fastest time for the next 3 stages. On the 18K stage 2, he beat Merrill by 16 seconds to lead by 7. On the next stage, it was McGear in second place by 9 seconds behind. Then on stage 4, the Subaru and the Ford drivers went all out to catch the Audi, but both had trouble, and you can see why. He's just so smooth.
Beautiful, and he's setting the car up in a long slide well before each corner.
Now we're on board the Ford Escort with Marilyn Smith.
Bad washboard coming into that turn. Got a big slide, takes a wheel down to the side and thumps a tree with the right rear corner. Now, he's still got his foot in it here, Vic, but he doesn't know what damage he's done yet.
Now we can have a look right here. Look at that right rear quarter panel is crumpled badly. The McGears, they're having problems, not the kind you'd like, brake problems.
You see Tom's having difficulty setting the car up into the corner. He's lost his rear brakes. He has almost no front brakes at all. So where you would normally set a car up going into a turn with your feet and make the minor corrections with your hands, he's lost the ability to do that.
So naturally, he just can't go as fast as he'd like. And after 4 special stages, here are the standings. Sprongel, the Audi leads by 24 from Merrill's Ford Escort. McGear, third, just 7 seconds back. He'd like to get those brakes fixed.
Well, the conditions are great for driving. Unfortunately, there's a lot of stones, sharp stones on the road, and we've been having some brake problems in the rear brakes. 2 stages now we've had to run with no brakes, no rear brakes, and that's affecting the front brakes as well. We're replacing the calipers, and we're putting some stone shields on. The problem is it's wearing through the stone shields very fast, so we'll see. We'll just keep going. Unfortunately, we've lost a bit of time. It's dropped us down into 3rd place now.
Merrill's crew not making any repairs to the right rear corner, so I guess it's mainly cosmetic damage.
We got a little wide on the left-hander. It was off camber, downhill, and a tree sitting down probably 15 feet off the road, and we slipped through and hit it. Luckily, we didn't take it in broadside. But the car came back in, pulled us out, and just clipped the back end. I'm a little nervous with the car. You know, I've got to be careful not to pull another boner.
Never on national TV should you pull a boner. As the Sprongels start stage 6, 18.8 kilometers. The first section is very tight and twisty. The back half of it is very fast. Let's go back to what we saw earlier, the way he handles this car. In fact, what I notice sometimes is that he's got the wheels pointed in the direction he wants the car to go before the car catches up with those wheels.
It's called setting up for the turn, and it means you're committed to it. And slide the car sideways, get it set up, bleed off some speed, make the minor corrections, little oversteer perhaps. You have to steer into the skid going through a corner so that it's pointed straight long before the road actually straightens out. Increases your speed down the straight portions of the surface as well.
And the familiar chirp of the turbo gets it a little loose, but able to gather it back in.
Just bleeding off the waste pressure as he comes off the throttle. That chirp from the wastegate of the turbocharger.
Now the time you're seeing is the first split at 4K, and it's 2:10.2, so that will be the time to beat. Frank and Dan Sprongel in their Audi Quattro S2. Hang on, we're right on the bumper of the Ford Escort, the Cosworth-powered car of Carl Merrill.
This road can be a bit unnerving, particularly for rally drivers from the eastern half of the continent. There are huge verges and drop-offs on the edge of this road, which you can't see through the tree. The driver knows they're there, and if he makes a mistake, an old rally driver's joke, if we go off here, our clothes will be out of style by the time we hit bottom.
And that's why, I mean, you can't blame him for feathering that throttle, can you?
The rock almost took out the camera.
Now remember the split time, at 4K by the Sprongles was 2:10.2, and it's 8.2 seconds slower now for Karl Merrill. I wonder if that bump on the tree did anything to him to slow him down.
I don't think so. It doesn't look like it slowed him down at all. And it hasn't done any structural damage to the car.
Remember earlier now the McGears, they did have some brake problems. We'll watch for their split at 4K.
Now, we know Tom has a car that's behaving more or less properly at the moment, but in the back of his mind, he knows about that brake problem, and he's got to be wondering if the brakes are going to hold.
Coming up to the 4K split, he is slower than the Sprongles, but he is faster than Merrill by 1.2 seconds to put himself into second place as we go back to Frank and Dan Sprongles.
Now, you see the turns have got wider, longer, faster. It's very difficult, unlike with the race car where you can set it up for a track. A rally car has to be set up for a myriad of different conditions, including just on this one stage.
And I wonder as well, when you hear Formula One drivers, kart drivers talk about getting into a repetition, getting into sort of a mode, really here you can never set yourself, can you?
You can get into a rhythm of balancing the car, of knowing what it's capable of doing, of reading the road properly, and trying to guess what's over the next brow.
Karl Merrill finds himself in third place after the split. Wow, it's a ride from this sled, wasn't it? Listen. No chirping, no turbo.
They've lost power. The car is really just coasting. The engine's running. Dan Sprongel, he's cut his route book out of the way. He's going to try to correct the problem right here on the road. Now, he's going to pull the foam air filter out of the turbo air intake. It had been sucked in, but now they can resume and have full power once again, but they've lost a lot of time being stopped.
And if you want to equate it to anything, think of it as a stop-and-go kind of penalty. I mean, they're losing time here. As for the McGears, not listening so much for the turbo chirp, they're listening to those brakes. Then, Paul, there's Karl Merrill. He doesn't know that the Sprongles have had some problems, had to stop, but he might be able to see some dust in the air. He might, in fact, be getting very close at this point.
Well, Vic, they start a minute apart in a really dusty rally. That dust is always hanging on, but these roads it's rained for a couple of days. They're pretty hard packed, so he would have no way of knowing that he's gaining on the Sprongles.
Now, Paul, you've got the Cosworth here at 450 horsepower. You've got 375 in the Sprongles Audi. And then you've got the McGears and their Subaru at 350 horsepower. If you say 450 horsepower, this man should be pulling away in every rally.
Vic, if it was a drag race, it would matter. But on roads that they've never seen before, changing conditions, most of it relies on who's sitting in the driver's seat. And how much courage can you muster coming to the top of a blind hill like this with 450 horsepower? Do you keep your foot down or not? And that's what really makes a difference. It's car control and not a little bit of nerve.
So making the most of the power you've got and getting that power to the road. As we come up to the second split at 10K, here were your leaders at the first split, the Sprongles, and their split time is 7:25.3, so we'll make a note of that. 7:25.3 will be the time that Merrill will now try to beat. And remember, he should, in fact, pick up some time because of that problem the Sprongles had earlier.
Now he comes steaming in here, didn't get the tail kicked out, had far too much understeer.
But you can see he is, in fact, 18.8 seconds better than the Sprongles, taking advantage of their turbo problem. Now the McGears in their Subaru. The split is 7:06.5. That's the leading time of Barrel. And the brakes, are they a problem again for Tom and Trish McGear? 7:22.5, 16 seconds off the leading pace set by Merrill.
Vic, there is something obviously slowing the Subaru Impreza down a bit. They were particularly fast at the beginning of this stage. Their brakes likely failing again. They're not quite as important on these long, fast sections. There is not as much demand on the brakes, but when you need them, like at these kinds of turns, it will slow the car down.
The Sprongles approaching the finish line at about 180 kilometers an hour to finish the 18.8 kilometer stage in 11:43.4.
Great opportunity here for Carl Merrill to make up some time. Both his leading competitors have had some problems in this stage, and here's where the horsepower counts in this car.
Sheet metal flapping in the breeze in 11:19.3, so he's up by 24.1 seconds. And now with some brake problems, do you risk going flat out?
Well, when you're not sure you have any brakes and you're not sure what the road's going to be like over the next hill, it does slow you down.
And you can tell by the expression on Trish McGear's face, not very happy with the performance. She made a mistake earlier, not happy with the performance of the car, but coming up to the finish of stage 6, over one of those Texas gates, the cattle traps. You see them all through the ranching country of Alberta. The whistle from the flag band to make sure everybody stands clear as the McGears come through. 11:48.3, and he has trouble stopping it. You're going to have trouble stopping the Sprongles from winning. The closest battle, Paul, right now is for 4th place. 4 teams are swapping second.
The number 4 Eagle Talon of Barry Letray passing Walter Peterson's vintage Datsun 240Z. It's interesting to note on the Datsun, built to compete in September's Shield of Africa Rally, the vintage rally starting in Cape Town, South Africa.
Now the Letrays have been battling some onboard computer problems that's taken away some of their horsepower and really brought them back to the others battling for 4th.
Normally, we would see them running a little bit higher than this and a bit quicker.
Nicole Molnar is the navigator. The driver is Tim Bendel, the Calgary electrician, the 2-time Canadian champion.
His latest 72 Datsun 510 competes in Group 2. He prefers rear-wheel drive for the fun and for the low cost. His lightweight 170 horsepower Datsun, well, if it needs a new transmission, he just goes to the wrecker and buys one for $100.
And for Nicole, this is just her 2nd rally. Keith Townsend, Ross Wood from Ontario. Keith, a computer programmer in Toronto. Ross, a high school guidance counselor in Milton.
And they've got a 4-wheel drive Toyota Corolla. It's normally aspirated. They're running on Bridgestone tires, and they're one of the best on ice and snow. And they've been swapping seconds with Bendel throughout this event.
Now have a look here. We've got a 4-wheel drive, that's Townsend Woods, against the 2-wheel drive rear wheel of Bendel Molnar, and they're absolutely even.
Absolutely dead even. Watch them come out of this hairpin, accelerate into the next right-hander. Very different styles. Bendel did a pendulum. Townsend drove straight into the turn and kicked the tail out, but they have come out again dead even.
In fact, they would tie this stage to the 2nd. Steve Barnes, he started inauspiciously with a big spin at Race City, but the local driver more comfortable certainly on the dirt.
He's got an 87 Audi 5000 Turbo Quattro, very few modifications, and in real life, Barnes is a professor at the University of Calgary Medical School.
Let's take a look and see how this 4th place battle went, because after 4 stages, Letray had an 18-second lead over Barnes. Then on stage 5, Latre slows and Barnes moves to the front of the 4. Stage 6, Latre and Townsend storm back. Barnes' lead is cut to just 1 second. Stage 7, Barnes opens up a 21-second gap. On stage 8, Bendel. Well, he's the quickest, but Barnes still holds 4th. On stage 9, Townsend and Bendel, they're charging. Barnes' lead cut to 3, and then Keith Townsend takes over on stage 10 and holds on to the end, where 22 seconds will cover 4th, 5th, and 6th overall.
At the front, the rally became somewhat predictable. Sprongel maintained the edge, winning all but 2 of the 11 stages. McGear and Merrill split the remainder. McGear was hurt by brake problems on some of the long stages, but Merrill kept his cool and had a smart drive and a trouble-free run in spite of the pressure from the Subaru behind him.
So as they cross the finish line, Frank and Dan Sprongel win their 3rd rally of 98 by nearly 2 minutes over Carl Merrill and Lance Smith. And in the race for the North American Rally Cup, Sprongel and Merrill are tied with 60 points.